All right, and here we are, tasting wine with Pete and Dave.
Hello, mate. What have we got here today? An interesting little lineup, I'm sure.
It is, Pete. Now, we've got a couple of French champagnes, and one is the same champagne. It's just a better one is a vintage and one is a non-vintage.
Okay, right, okay.
I've got a Pinot Gris, a little Chianti from Italy.
Campinetto. Okay, so real Chianti,
and
very
some
good.
and some bloody good Wolf Blats.
Some upmarket Wolf Blats. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So let's
very
get started with this non-vintage. This is the
non-vintage.
Duperret.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Premier Cru Brut.
Okay.
And it is France. Now, do you know a little bit of the history of the Duperret? Where it got its name?
Oh, well, they claim that it got its name from an explorer, a French explorer.
Louis Duperret.
Yeah, I don't know whether he had much to do with wine, but...
Well, he explored and founded quite a lot and mapped quite a lot of South Australia.
Okay.
So sort of a tribute.
An Australian connection. Perhaps.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's where the name came up. Now, I do believe this is a Woolies brand, so they've sourced this out of France. Champagne, but...
well, actually, it's interesting you mention that because I've seen this before, and yeah, this one looks pretty good. Initially, the first time I saw this was a couple of years ago, and a bit of the stock that was coming in, I suspect that it might have spent a bit of time sitting on a dock in Singapore or somewhere. It was a bit flat, a bit stale, a bit tired, and a bit broad and flabby. This is actually quite impressive. Like, it's got quite a nice lifted aromatic profile.
It does.
And it seems to be quite well balanced and quite good flavour across the palate as well.
Yeah, across the palate I can get that Chardonnay fruit, but then it is really filled out with that Pinot Noir fruitiness as well that I get on the palate. And there's just an underlying little bit of that bread shop in there, and so it's
that sort of appealing.
It's not
character.
a really expensive one, but it's got quite a nice character.
Well, it's champagne, and I mean, at the end of the day, that's how the game works these days. That you want to be calling it, you can't call it champagne unless it comes from champagne, and that's part of the reason people spend their money to buy champagne.
Now, in comparison, we'll just have a look at this Duperret. This is a 2005 vintage Duperret.
Okay.
I got enough in your glass there, Peter?
No, it's a vintage. We want more.
There you go.
So this is a vintage Duperret 05. Okay.
Yeah.
Haven't seen many of those on the market as yet. 05 vintage. 04 has been well received, but in theory it should be good because a champagne house should not be putting a wine on the market as a vintage unless it's a good year. So
first thing I get is the yeast. The bread shop character just comes barreling through.
A bit more pronounced than in the previous one. Yep, for sure. But it's an interesting sort of an idea as well because you think, well, the non-vintage in this case is less complex and less full-bodied, in which you would say, okay, well, that would be your aperitif style. This one, on the other hand, maybe you would have that on the table before you started your dinner, but you could quite happily drink this through, certainly your entree.
Much creamier on the palate, and it seems to have just a bit more length. The non-vintage seems to fall away a bit
by
quickly.
comparison.
Yeah. But this has much more length.
Well, it's an interesting thing too, because like often you'll look at a wine like that and you think, well, the non-vintage, when you looked at it on its own, you think, oh, that's pretty good. It's got all these things, and then it suddenly suffers. Yeah, it suddenly suffers by comparison with what looks to be a better wine.
And I'm still getting that across the palate. I think something that would go really well with oysters. Lovely drop.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to come back home here now to Tasmania. Now, this just tried the other day for the first time, and I'm very impressed. This Pinot Gris.
Tamar Ridge, Pinot Gris from Tasmania.
From Tasmania. Now, Pinot Gris, interesting. The grapes from Pinot Gris are fairly small bunches, and the word Pinot is pine cone in French. And
you've been doing some research.
I have been. The reason they call it a Pinot Gris is because the bunches of grapes look like a small pine cone. Now, Gris is grey in French.
That's essentially the thing. You get the Gris, G-R-I-S, and I guess we all know, it's like noir is black, Gris is grey. The other permutation, if you like, of this grape variety is the Pinot Grigio, which is the Italian style. And Not that I know a lot about the Italian language, but I'm led to believe that Grigio is grey in Italian.
But this, I can get it up to the nose,
yeah.
and I would tell you straight away, just on the nose, this is not Italian. This has got much more of that zesty fruit character.
Well, it's that unctuous character, that slippery texture that you get, the richer, fuller-bodied character that you get from the Brie style.
Apples and pears and...
Pears, yeah. And look, it's an interesting thing. Sometimes you think you're, when you're trying this with wine tasters, and you think you're sort of like leading the witness a bit, in a sense, when you talk about, say, pears, pear juice, and aromatics, because that's the characteristic profile, if you like, of Pinot Gris. But you do get it when you do. You can say, oh yes, I can smell that pear character that comes through.
Wow, and it's so much more defined on the palate. And
what vintage are we looking at here? 12, so it's pretty young.
2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a nice balance in there with the fruit and the acid and everything. It's just it's quite a reasonable palate on that, and lovely, absolutely beautiful wine.
Well, as
great
I say,
summertime wine.
It is indeed, yeah. If all Pinot Gris was as interesting as that and as appealing, then there'd be a lot more people drinking it.
Lovely. Now, the next wine here, Pete, I'm really interested in this. Again, it takes me back, as we've talked about many a times in our tastings, it takes me back to when I lived in Italy.
Yep.
Now, I don't see the old-fashioned Chianti bottles anymore.
The ones in the wicker baskets. Probably best that you don't see too many of those. I think they use Tiber River water to go into most of those.
Now, this is an interesting one. This is a Chianti Classico.
Yep.
Now, that's 2011 vintage.
Good vintage, by all accounts, in that part of the world, in Tuscany.
Yes. And from what I understand about Chianti, it cannot be called Chianti unless it has a cork in it.
That's true.
If they put a screw cap on, it's not Chianti.
Yeah, no, they can't be calling it Chianti. There's a lot of other little, I guess, rules and regulations that here in Australia we think of as being a bit arcane and a bit strange in some ways. But a lot of different parts of Europe have got their tradition, and certainly Tuscany, they have that tradition as well. The other thing is that they are only allowed to use indigenous Tuscan grapes in here. Sangiovese is the main one, as a rule. But if you're going to use anything else in it, then it's got to be one of the other permitted grapes in that part of the world. And the sort of grapes they certainly do not permit, as we've probably alluded to before, are the French grapes. So you cannot be using Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot in your wine if you want to call it Chianti. A lot of the renegades across different parts of Tuscany made that decision a few years ago that they thought they could make interesting wine out of a blend between Sangiovese and some of the so-called Bordeaux grapes.
Wow.
But this is traditional Chianti.
Just get that up to your nose, Pete. It's just lovely, full-bodied, and you get so much character on the nose and on the palate.
Yeah. It's that savoury element. You look at it, the funny thing with the colour, like it almost looks a bit translucent. You'd be starting to think, almost like a Pinot type colour. But that's it's just what they do.
And again, once I get this on my palate, it brings back all sorts of memories of the meals I used to have in Italy, and some of those tomato-y based sauces and things like that, and how well this would go with that sort of thing.
Absolutely,
it's just beautiful.
And you're getting what by Australian standards is a medium-bodied palate, but these dry, dusty tannins running through the finish and really good length of flavour.
Yes.
And that's just a typical traditional Chianti style. And we're starting to see more of them in Australia, and very good that we are.
That's still lingering on the palate.
Oh, absolutely, very good. That's a classic traditional style of Chianti.
Now we get into the Wolf Blast. This is
this is a polar opposite. So you've gone from medium-bodied, savoury, not particularly oak-driven, dry tannic finish. You're going to big, sweet, luscious fruit and the Australian sunshine in a bottle sort of mentality.
And that's what I love about wine, Pete. It's just this so
much variety.
Yes,
and
so
much
diverse.
diversity. Absolutely.
Yeah. McLaren Vale Shiraz. Now this is 2011, and McLaren Vale did fairly well in 2011. But I trust Wolf Blast putting their stamp on this.
This is an upmarket Wolf Blast. So the bigger companies, I think we've said before as well, in a lesser vintage, the bigger companies will almost invariably make the better wine because they've got the resources. They can dish off all the scraps into their cheaper stuff. So you've got your red label and your yellow label Wolf Blast. Anything that's not quite up to the mark can go into that, which means that the $30, $40, $50 wines are going to have the better fruit in it.
I keep getting something different every time I put it
Yep.
up to the nose. You know, first I get a little bit of licorice, then I got a little bit of a mint sort of a character there. And it's just huge dark berry fruit.
Berry fruits, lots of sweet oak in there as well, but it's all integrated. It's a traditional, I say you call it traditional Aussie style. I mean, we didn't, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have a lot of oak in our wines, but it's very much a Wolf Blass style.
Oh, wow. What balance, what a mouthful of wine that is. Absolutely lovely. And it's got all those characteristics that I said I was sensing on the nose. You know, you get the licorice. There's just a little bit of a chocolate sensation that runs across the palate. And all those dark berry fruit.
Yeah,
it's just beautiful.
A lot of that there. There's a little bit of a lean sort of palate structure, if you like, on the finish, a bit leaner than what you might initially suspect from the nose, but none of the green underripe characters that you tend to get in a lot of other 2011 reds. So obviously this has had really good fruit going to it and a bit of the deluxe oak as well. So yeah, pretty good stuff.
Now the Cabernet. This is the Wolf Blass Black Label.
Oh, this is a blend. This is the
37th vintage Cabernet Shiraz Malbec.
Absolutely. Okay.
Wow, look at the color of that, Pete.
So this is 2009, I think, from memory, looking at that. Yep, 2009. Okay, so this is very interesting. This is the wine that put Wolf Blass on the map.
Wow.
Before this wine happened to be, people...
That's one of the
didn't know
darkest
about it.
wines I've seen in a long time. It's just...
Well, particularly it's a 9 as well. That's a current release. So when you think a lot of the other makers, their current releases are quite a bit newer than that. This has just come on stream now. And you're getting quite lush, lavish oak treatment, lavish fruit, really quite lush compared to even the grey label that we just looked at.
Wow, that's just a step above anything I think I've ever tasted in a Cabernet.
Well, it's
Whoa.
not just Cabernet. It's got Shiraz in it, it's got Malbec in it.
Yes,
it's
yes,
a blend.
yes.
But
Yeah,
the thing about this is that it's first and foremost a Wolf Blass Black Label. So it's not a traditional Cabernet, but
And another thing rather unique is we do that so well here in Australia.
absolutely we do. Yep. And the fact that we're allowed to do that, you wouldn't see that anywhere else. You know, you look at those three grapes that it says there: Cabernet Sauvignon, Shiraz, Malbec. You got two of them are Bordeaux grapes, so to speak. So the Cabernet and the Malbec, you could have that in Bordeaux. But if you were to make a premium Bordeaux red, and bearing in mind that this stuff sells for over $100 a bottle, you would not be allowed to put Shiraz in it. And conversely, if you went to the Rhone Valley in France, where the Shiraz is king, and you said, okay, I want to be making a wine and put some Cabernet in it or some Malbec, they'd throw you out the house. You can't be doing that.
That is so beautiful.
It's
That
so
is so
Australian.
complex, and then you throw the tannins in there as
Yep,
well,
yep.
and it's just such a fantastic balance. This is really, really well done. Oh, highly recommend that, particularly to anyone who's putting wine away to have
Absolutely.
in a few years' time. I think this would outlast me.
Yeah, possibly. You're probably right there, Dave. I think, I don't know how long it'd last in my house, though. That's the only problem. You know. It'd be a good idea to say, yes, we'll keep this for the kids or the grandkids, but I don't know whether it'd last that long.
Wow.
But yeah,
What a way to end it, huh, Pete?
a great opportunity to try that, though. Yeah, you don't often get to see that. And this is the wine that Wolf Blass himself will tell you is the best wine of vintage, is his Black Label. That's the wine that made him famous. He won 3 Jimmy Watson trophies in a row with that, and that put him on the map. He also put the Jimmy Watson trophy on the map, as he will tell you. But that's his,
First time I've ever had the opportunity to taste that.
Absolutely.
So that was fantastic. What a way to end.
Indeed. Thanks,
Thanks.
mate.
See you again next week.
You will.